Good evening and welcome to Enemy Within, Tuesday the 22nd of December, and it's solstice. Happy winter solstice, everyone. This is what it's really all about. Got a great Enemy Within lined up for you tonight. We've got great old favourite Mickey Summers joining us. Hi, Mickey.
Hi there.
And you've made the move. You're over in New York now, aren't you, mate?
Yes, it wasn't without its problems. Nottingham decided to notify Border Patrol, which is immigration, about what I've been doing. Apparently I'm a domestic terrorist now, so hey-ho. But once I told them to Google what it was all about, they wished me a happy holiday. So thank you, Homeland Security, USA.
Absolutely. So, what did he say? This shit wouldn't fly over here?
Well, that's exactly, you know, they actually said that this kind of stuff, once he Googled some of it, he said that's the kind of stuff that people would be going to federal prison for a minimum of 10 years.
Wow. Also, I'd like to say a big thanks to Tony Hurst for hosting tonight. Thanks, Tony, mate.
Hi, Andy. You're welcome. Oh, sorry. Before saying hello.
And we've also got a couple of other guests you've got lined up, Mickey, for the first hour. Would you like to make the introduction, please, mate?
Yeah, well, a lot of people know Sharon Chesterman already from the Crossroads and
Hi, Mickey.
Stuff that we've been collaborating with and doing and exposing along the way. But you know, the child abuse situation, you know, we've brought it along the way. But you know, we've seen a darker side where they target people for their children, and they're not just targeting them; they're making money out of it. You know, and this is modern day Britain, modern day child abuse. You know, and with that, you know, I've met Jane and a few of her friends, and really truthfully, it's about exposing what is really going on. We touched base with it a few weeks ago with Kelly Cotton, but we've got Jane and we've got Sharon, and I think with that, it's time to hand it over to both Sharon and Jane.
Hi, thanks, Mickey. Hi, Jane.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Brilliant. Right, we'll just go straight into it because there's a lot to talk about. So what I'll start by saying is, up until March of 2014, you'd never had any contact with social services, the police. Your family were happy, healthy. There were never any problems. They were doing well at school. And March 2014, I will let you take it from there and explain how you were informed that there was a problem that your daughter had reported. So if you'd like to start with that.
I will do. March 2014, well, just before that, my daughter's behaviour started changing at school. We jumped on it. We wanted to know why her behaviour was changing. This was so unlike her. And several things that both myself and the school tried to do to try and obviously find out what her problem was. Nothing seemed to work, so the school decided to bring in a child psychologist.
Yeah. Were you happy with that?
I wanted to find out why my child was behaving the way she was, because it was so out of character for her.
Right, okay.
I had a meeting with the child psychologist, obviously explaining that I wasn't happy with the way that my child was behaving because she was becoming quite spiteful and completely out of character for herself.
Yeah.
And during the course of the child psychologist meeting up with my daughter, she met with her every day for about a week, and on the Friday, the last day, my daughter revealed to her that she was being sexually assaulted by a distant family relative that had only been into the family because he'd married into the family.
Okay. And you up to this point had no idea that this had happened, it was going on, you know, you just didn't have a clue?
I didn't know anything at all.
But you knew there was a problem with your daughter? Right.
Yes.
So, obviously they contacted you to tell you that, you know, what your daughter had revealed, and then if you want to take it from there.
They didn't contact me at all. This was on the Friday. We received a phone call on the Saturday afternoon from the police.
So they actually went to the police before they told you?
Yes, they did, yes.
Right. Okay.
Which we thought was kind of odd.
Yeah.
When the police, when they first called me, we were in the process of going out. There were babysitters lined up for the children, because we had to go and pick something up. We had to go collect something, myself and my partner.
Uh-huh.
And all the police said to us was that they needed to speak to us. They needed to speak to us immediately, or at least one of us, because my daughter had been saying stuff at school. And I thought, well, the way that her behaviour was just lately, I didn't know whether she'd been bullying people, etc., or had hurt somebody. You know, it's not the most immediate thing that comes to your mind.
No.
And that's all they said. I was asked by the babysitters who it was on the phone, and basically that's all I said. All I said was, all I know is it's a police officer from this area's constabulary.
Uh-huh.
Could they come and talk to us? Didn't know what it was about. They wouldn't reveal anything over.
So they wouldn't tell you what it was about, just that there was a problem and they were coming to talk to you. Okay.
Exactly. They wouldn't reveal anything over the phone, and that's obviously what I sort of told the babysitter, because obviously I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. So what happened? What was the next step?
The next step was my partner was actually upstairs when I received the call. I went up and told him what was going on. We tried to contact the person that we were collecting this item from, but couldn't get hold of him. Well, not knowing what it was, he then went out and obviously collected the item because he couldn't get hold of the person that he was supposed to be picking it up from.
Uh-huh.
I waited in, but in the meantime of sort of explaining to my partner what was going on, my daughter went running into her bedroom crying.
Yeah.
I thought, well, this is really odd. She was perfectly fine. She was quite happy that day, etc. And I don't like it when my kids cry anyway.
No, I don't think any parent would.
So I went in to the bedroom to try and find out what was wrong with her. She didn't really say. She wouldn't really say at all. So I sort of questioned her, gave her a few different things as to
scenarios,
and say no. Things were suggested to me in my ear, which I then put to my daughter, and she said no. Then something else was suggested to me, and my heart hit the floor.
Right.
What was suggested to me was, had she been touched somewhere where she shouldn't be by somebody?
Right.
She nodded. That's all she did.
Right.
So I tried a few other different scenarios as to who it might be, and again the suggestion was put towards me, and I felt physically sick at this time, and I turned around and said to my daughter about it, and she again nodded and burst into tears.
Right. Do you think the person telling you actually knew what had happened?
I think she knew a lot more than what they were letting on.
Right.
Of course, I did know more. I got rid of the babysitters,
and
I waited for the police officers to arrive, which they did shortly afterwards. Obviously, they interviewed my daughter. Everything was explained to them.
Did they interview your daughter at home, or did they take her to a station and interview her?
No, at first they interviewed her at home with myself present, and then they organised taking her to their head office thing.
Yeah.
But they also obviously had to organise the children to come with us as well, because obviously my partner had gone out to collect the item.
Yes.
Which they did do.
Yeah.
Once we got there, they interviewed my daughter by herself, and two of the other children. In the meantime, I had to contact my partner and tell him what was going on, but not actually explain. But I had to explain to him, that he had to come to the headquarters, to the police headquarters.
Yeah.
Which he did. When he got there, we then told him what was going on.
Right. I imagine he must have been devastated.
Absolutely devastated. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to do. he felt that he'd failed his daughter because somebody had got to his daughter.
Yeah.
You know,
the natural
he was completely in turmoil.
Yeah, yeah.
As was I.
Yeah, yeah. So we're now at the police station. Your daughter's been interviewed. What happened after that? Were you allowed to go home once the interview had been sort of finished with your children?
Once the interview had finished, we all went home. The police officers a couple of days later came back and got my statement, etc. But during the time of obviously going home, we were contacted by social services.
Right. And what was their attitude towards the situation?
Their attitude was absolutely disgusting.
Right.
At that time, they were looking for reasons, excuses, whatever you want to call them. But they kept looking at us with scorn, etc. And what actually happened was we were told that obviously my daughter would need to be medically examined as to how far the abuse had gone ahead.
Right, right.
So we went over to a special centre for her to be able to do that, and the social worker met us there. And now they said it was on one day when it wasn't. It was actually 2 days later than they've actually written in their report.
Right, so they've actually written the wrong date in the report.
Yeah, they've actually written the wrong date in the report.
Right. Not the first time they do that, is it? Or not the last time, should I say. So, so what happened after that? Once they've done the examination, you know, where did it go from there?
Basically, when they first give you a social worker, it's sort of like they're linked with the police. To find out investigations, etc. After the first 3 weeks, I think it was, they then handed it over to the area social worker.
Right. But during all this time, you've still got your children with you?
Yeah, during all this time, we've still got our children with us.
Right.
Within those first 3 weeks, my son was asked by the initial social worker if he wanted to go and live somewhere else, in a house perhaps with a dog.
Right.
Because we didn't have any pets.
Right. Did they give him any reason as to why he might want to go and live with someone else?
No, none at all.
Just randomly asked him, would you like to go and live somewhere else?
Apparently they needed to question the children and question the children. They used to take them out of the room and question them on their own with nobody else present because they...
So there was no responsible adult with them while they were being questioned?
No, not at all, because they turned around and said we couldn't be there. As parents, we couldn't be there.
Yeah, but that you could still have a responsible adult. They could, you know, still have brought in another adult.
They gave us the excuse that their investigations would not allow another person present.
But I thought by law, if a child was being interviewed, they had to have a responsible adult with them. Now, I may be wrong, and I'm sure somebody will correct me if I am wrong, but that's what I thought. But anyway, we'll move on from there. So they've been interviewed by social workers, police...
So they've been. Firstly, they were obviously interviewed by the police. Then they were interviewed on a regular basis by social workers. Yeah. And then they were called to the school. The social workers were called to the school, or this social worker was called to the school, because apparently my daughters had said that I had let the perpetrator of the sexual abuse back in to see the children.
Right. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you this because I have to. Had you allowed the man back into the house?
I would never allow him come within 100 yards of my children.
So we can hear that straight from you. So, okay, now the children have been interviewed, social services are involved. Where do we go from there?
Well, from there, we were told, obviously, because we'd let the perpetrator back into the house. I was then visited by the social worker. My partner was at work. I had all 4 children at home because this was after school, because apparently this happened in the middle of the day and they left it until the children had finished the school.
Right. Okay.
I was then visited by the social worker and a police officer.
Right.
threatening me, and that's all the only way I can put it, threatening me that if this was the case, my children would be removed on the spot, there and then.
Right.
At the same time that I had the social worker and a police officer visiting me, the perpetrator had their home visited by two police officers.
Right.
They were with me for approximately half hour, 45 minutes, whilst the person's home was visited by these police officers, and it was the police officers then called the police officer that was here. They had a conversation. I don't know what the conversation was because she left my house. The police officer went outside to take the phone call. Didn't hear any of it. She then came in and said that they couldn't prove at all that the perpetrator had been to the house.
Right. So
they forced me to sign a piece of paper saying that the perpetrator and partner would not be allowed anywhere near the children. I was happy with that, in a way, because obviously I didn't want the perpetrator anywhere near the children.
Yeah, understandably.
The thing that I wasn't happy with is the fact that we were forced to sign this piece of paper, even though I gave complete assurances that the perpetrator would come nowhere near the children.
Right. Well, why were you bothered about signing the papers?
I was bothered because they were saying that if anybody came near the house or anything like that, it didn't matter who it was. It wasn't necessarily the perpetrators, but they turned around and said, unless they say that it's okay, friends and family weren't allowed to visit the house.
Right. So you basically signed a piece of paper saying that you wouldn't allow friends and family into your home?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But it was put in such a way that if they did come into the house, the children would be removed straight away.
Right. So you couldn't have anybody to your home, and if you did, they would remove the children? Basically,
yes.
Right, okay. And you obviously were not happy with that?
No, because I've got quite an extensive group of friends, and to be honest, they're still there. They're still backing me up.
That's brilliant. That's really good. I mean, you have got a really good support system around you, which is important in these situations. So, okay, but have they still left the children with you? They still haven't taken the children, right? So they're still happy with you having the children. Have they made any indication that they want to take the children?
Yeah, they turned around and said that they felt that the children weren't being protected, even though they themselves had then obviously since then switched over to the area social worker, and they put the children under a police protection scheme. Which means not only were the social workers visiting the children at least once a week, so were the police officers. Good
grief. Yeah.
Now, obviously, police officers coming to the door used to scare the kids.
Yeah.
So over a period of weeks, etc., obviously we were complaining about the children being scared because,
police constantly at the door. Yeah.
They were also turning up in bright fluorescent police cars.
Right.
So obviously people around the area were starting to talk.
Yes. Sort of alerting the whole neighbourhood that something was wrong.
Exactly. We were complaining about this, and after some months, they basically gave permission for the area's PCSO to look after the children.
Right.
Now,
so they obviously weren't that concerned if they've handed it down to a PCSO.
No, they couldn't have been, could they?
No.
But we'd known this PCSO ever since we'd lived in the area that we were living in.
Right.
So before all of this involvement, because we'd lived together for a fair few years before, the children had always known this PCSO because she'd visit the school, do the normal things that PCSOs do.
So they were comfortable with the PCSO.
They were comfortable,
which was a good thing. Yeah. Okay. Now, if we move forward, obviously the case went to court with the perpetrator. What was the result?
Before the case went to court with the perpetrator, social services took us to court for immediate removal on the children. This was some 2.5 months later, after my daughter's initial reveal.
Right.
They took us to court in July.
Yes.
For immediate removal. We went.
So they wanted to take the children away straight away.
Yeah, this is like 2.5 months later. But
so where was this? Was this a magistrate's court, a family court?
This was a magistrate's court with obviously 3 judges, as you do in a magistrate's court.
Yeah.
The magistrates turned around and said after the court case, etc., blah, 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 and after their conflab, etc., that they felt that there was no need and the children were under no risk of harm to any degree. There was no need for the children to be removed.
Right, so this is 3 judges that have had the evidence put in front of them. They've looked through the evidence and they've come to the conclusion that the children are not at risk. There is no harm. There's no risk of harm to the children.
Yep, there's no risk of harm whatsoever. The children are perfectly safe.
Right, okay. So where does it go from there? What happened after you'd been to the magistrate's court and the social workers have obviously been told you can't take the children, they're okay, we have no concerns. So what happens after that? After
that, there were lots of reports, obviously, etc., from the social workers. Every time we had monthly meetings with the social workers, reports were written, minutes were taken. We very rarely got any copies of minutes, etc.
Right, yeah, okay.
When we did get copies of minutes, we noticed that a lot of the minutes were incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
To a degree where either words were missing, so it changed the whole context of the minutes.
Yeah. Did you point this out to them?
We did on several occasions, dozens of occasions actually.
Yeah, and what was their reply?
Their reply was, "Oh, we'll cross it out now and we'll correct it in our minutes in the office."
Right.
But we never got revised copies.
No. Did you ever get proof that they had revised the copies? No, okay. So they may well not have.
No, they probably didn't.
Not that I'm cynical at all. Okay, so where do we go from here? Obviously the perpetrator is taken to court and there's a trial.
The perpetrator, obviously there was a lot of investigation, to-in and fro-in, etc., and he was taken to court, remanded on bail, etc., for a while. And then in January of this year, he was found guilty.
Right.
There was a lot of to-in and fro-in because obviously at first he wouldn't admit it, etc.
Uh-huh.
But then he did admit it in the end, and he was found guilty.
Right.
He got a sentence and an extended sentence on top.
Right. Okay. So roughly, how long roughly did he? Well, not roughly, but how long did he get?
7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a fair sentence. Right. Okay. So we'll move on from there. Now, what were the next steps?
The next steps were the whole time all of this was going on, so the whole of last year, beginning of this year, and all the way through this year, up to March of this year.
Uh-huh.
The social services were relentless, and I mean relentless, at getting us through one thing or another, etc., etc., etc. We had to do this, we had to do that, we had jump through as many hoops as you expect.
Uh-huh. Now, didn't a social worker make a comment about you always being there at meal times?
Yeah, the social workers, and even my children picked up on this, would always visit at tea time. So around sort of 5 o'clock-ish, expecting tea time for children of the age that I've got.
Yes,
they're quite young. They are quite young.
Yeah.
And even, my children, they turned around and said, "Well, we know when you're coming." And the reaction to that was, "Well, when? How do you know?" Because it's always the same day and it's always at the same time. That's what my children said.
Okay. But didn't one of them make a comment about why you were always here at meal times?
Yeah, they turned around and they
said wrong.
They turned around and they said to us, "Can you please explain why is it every time we visit you, you're always at home?" And I said, "Because it's the children's meal time. What do you want me to do? Make them starve?"
Right. Okay.
My children's health and everything comes first.
Yeah.
I have to feed my children. I would not let my children...
a routine. You have a routine.
I do have a routine.
Okay.
I have a routine, you should have a routine for children because at least that way, they learn and they're brought up, etc.
Yes, and children like a routine. That's my experience anyway. Okay, so now you've got the social workers constantly at your door, you know, questioning everything. Where do we go from there?
Basically, you know, the children are questioned all the time about this, that and the other.
Is this all of the children, or just the one that made the allegations?
No, all of the children. There were times where my younger children, as younger children do, were getting muddled up with dates, etc.
Yeah, they are. Some of them are quite young, aren't they? So dates, you'd expect that, yeah.
And then my eldest child, who's of a fair age to understand, the social worker was talking to one of my younger children, and she happened to say, "Well, what did you do at the weekend?" And my child turned around and said that we'd done such and such and such and such, which wasn't anywhere near the truth. And my older child turned around and said, "That's not true." Right. So she goes, "No, I'm joking. I was only lying."
Right.
And despite the fact that they knew that, they used that against us in court.
Right. So they knew that the child had fabricated like a little fantasy. Yep. But they then used that against you in court, knowing that it was just a child's fantasy.
Exactly. There were quite a few occasions where things like that would turn up, and on some occasions the children were telling absolute gospel truth. On a lot of occasions the children were lying.
Yeah.
But everything that was against us, the children were truthful.
Right. So if the child said something that suited their cause, they would put that down as gospel truth. But then if they said something that didn't fit their sort of cause, then, you know, it was fabricated.
Well,
okay.
My son actually questioned his sister and said, "Why are you lying?" And I know this because he came down and told us afterwards.
Yeah.
He said, she turned round and said, "The reason I said that is because that's what they," meaning the social workers, "want us to say. That's what they want us to tell them."
Right. So where did she get that impression from?
Because she said that whenever that she told little lies or some stuff like that, the social workers would say how clever she was, would jeer her on.
So they'd reward her, in other words, if she, you know, verbally reward her if she fantasised or told little, you know, fairy tales or what have you, imagination.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. And she'd picked up on that. Sort of, what school would this particular child be in? Would it be infants, juniors, or seniors?
At the time, all of my children were in. At the time of this happening, all of my children were in junior school. Sorry,
junior school.
Infants and juniors. It's a mix. It starts.
Yeah, so it would be from infant's age to junior age.
Yeah.
You know, so really from 5 to about 10 or 11, in between that area. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Primary school.
Yeah. So.
But my eldest was at the topper end, so he was the junior.
Yeah, so he was towards the end of the junior school. Just trying to give people an idea of the ages of the children, because there are 4 of them.
When this started, my youngest was in reception, so she was 4.
Mm-hmm.
My eldest was at the topper end of junior school, about to leave.
Yeah, and that's your son. Yeah. Right. So now we've got the sort of background. We're going into court now. The social workers are taking you to court. Which court are they taking to you? Because you've done the magistrates, so they've taken you to court for a second time. Which court was that?
They not only them, but all of our legal team, because both myself and my partner got 2 different legal teams, because we were told that was obviously that would be better for us, because my name is obviously on the children's birth certificate.
Yeah.
But so is his.
Right. Yes.
So he has equal parental rights.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're both legally represented by different solicitors and barristers.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a nice little money earner there.
we were told not only by social services, but we were also told by both of our legal teams that we should take this to a family court.
Right. What reason did they give for you to take it to a family court? Why would that be in your interest?
Because they said that we would be better off with our case. The legal team told us that the family courts are there to help families.
Okay, this is a secret family court, I'm assuming.
Family court. Yeah, there was no... There was one judge, obviously. There was no jury, no nothing.
Right.
Other than a judge, a minute writer, and obviously the legal team.
Yes, and the social workers, they had a barrister and solicitors, I would assume, as well.
Yes, they did, yeah.
Yes, right, okay. So now we are in court. How did that go?
It was a joke. It was a complete joke. Our barristers literally tore the lead social worker apart.
Uh-huh. How did you do that?
Every bit of evidence they questioned, she was couldn't answer.
She didn't seem very sure of herself.
No. She was questioned about the reports, obviously, on the children that were written.
Mm-hmm.
And
now, what happened to the reports? Didn't some of the reports go missing? Some of the originals?
The judge asked her what happened to her handwritten reports, which they have to take when they visit the children.
Right.
Now, whenever they visited the children, they never took handwritten reports at that time.
Uh-huh.
Also, because of the time that they used to visit the children, the reports, more often than not, were not written up until the next day. Or the notes weren't written until the next day.
So they may well not have actually been an accurate account of what was said.
I don't think they were an accurate account anyway.
Right, okay. So what happened to the reports?
So the judge asked to see the handwritten notes about the children. And the social worker said, we don't have them. The judge asked why they didn't have the handwritten notes. She said, because once we make firm copies...
A final report sort of thing.
A final report sort of thing. We destroy the notes.
Right. Now that can't be legal, surely, because that should be an accurate account of events. It's evidence.
It's evidence as far as I can see, and surely it's against the data protection.
Well, yes. What was the judge's comment?
The judge's comment was, that shouldn't strictly have happened. All notes have to be kept, whether they're handwritten notes or actual reports.
Uh-huh.
But I'll let that pass. I won't criticise you for it.
Right, okay. So he's acknowledged that they should have kept them, but hey, it doesn't matter, we'll let this slip. Okay. And this is a judge. This is the judge.
This is a judge.
In a family court. Okay.
Yep.
So, now, while you were in court, were you able to call witnesses on your behalf?
No, both of our legal teams said that we were not allowed any witnesses because they would be in our defence. Now, surely that's what a witness does anyway.
Well, yes, and surely in a court of law, you have the right to put a defence.
Apparently, we were told that it doesn't work like that in a family court.
Okay. What was the reason given to you for not being able to bring...
We were just told we weren't allowed them. And obviously we didn't know the rights, the wrongs, etc. We were just told that we weren't allowed them. And of course we put our faith in the solicitors.
Yes, as you do. Well, initially. But you had some quite notable people that were willing to back you up, didn't you?
We did, yeah, we did. We had police officers from the perpetrator's case.
Right. So these were the investigating officers of the abuse case that were willing to come into court and give you a character reference?
Yes.
But you weren't allowed to call them?
No.
No. Did you have any other people that put themselves forward to come and speak for you?
Yeah, there was the children's PCSO.
Right.
She said that she would be a witness. Countless friends and family. Now, when they went to court, they had initially 25 witnesses.
Right. Who were the witnesses? Were they like professionals?
Yes, there were a lot of professionals. Both myself and my partner were put under. We had to go for these courses to be seen by specialists. Apparently, these specialists, psychoanalysis teams, etc.
Right.
Because basically they turned around and said that we had Munchausen by proxy.
Yes, we'll get on to that.
because my daughter had breathing problems and other stuff when she was first born.
So what they've said is you have Munchausen's by proxy, but your daughter was diagnosed with a respiratory condition.
They couldn't fully diagnose it, but they kept her in hospital for 6 months. They couldn't fully diagnose it because they couldn't find a reason behind why it was happening, but they could see that it was happening.
Right. Okay. So, and this is why you had Munchausen's. They acknowledged, the hospital acknowledged that your daughter had a breathing condition, but they couldn't give you a diagnosis for it, so that meant that you had Munchausen's.
Well, that's what the social workers believe.
That's their assessment. Okay, and right. It's quite frightening as a parent. I mean, I've brought four children up, and I hear some of the things you're saying, and my first thought is, I used to do that, and I thought I was being a good parent.
Now, my daughter has been diagnosed with a series of other things.
Right.
Clinically diagnosed by a doctor.
Right.
But I was over anxious and making it into something.
Okay, so how do they make... Okay, so she has been diagnosed with something.
Yep. She's been diagnosed with 3 different problems.
Right. But you have Munchausen's by proxy.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, that just does not make sense in any way, shape or form. Right, if we can move on from the Munchausen's, I've forgotten where we were now.
Well, these clinical things that we went to go and see, we had a cognitive test, is it?
Cognitive test, yeah.
To see how intelligent we were.
Okay.
Now, both myself and my partner were told that we were on the higher ranks of intelligence. Without sounding boasting or anything like that, but we were within the higher spectrum.
And how did they react to that?
Not unusual, because they realised and they admitted that all of the children were of higher intelligence than children of their age.
Yeah. What were the judge's comments when he met your children? Because your children asked to meet him, didn't they?
Our 2 eldest children asked to meet them because obviously the children got awarded a court-appointed, unbiased guardian.
Right. And what was their opinion of the unbiased court?
Well, the first time she met them was for about 10 minutes in my home when the guardian came to meet me, and basically all she said to the children was hi.
Mm-hmm.
The second time she met them, months and months and months later, when we went to court, about 3 weeks before we went to court, and she met them for about 20 minutes.
Right. What was her there to...
She was there basically to seek what the children's opinions were. She was the children's voice in court.
Right, okay. Did the children trust her?
The second time the children met her, because they weren't really interested in meeting her the first time round anyway, because they were at home, they were playing, they were doing what children do.
Yeah.
And the second time they met her, both my elder 2 children came to me on different occasions and said, "Mum, we don't trust the guardian."
Yeah.
Now, these are children of 8 and 10.
Yeah.
They didn't trust the guardian. They said, could they meet the judge themselves?
Right.
There was a lot of speculation. The children didn't know. We didn't know whether the children would be allowed to meet the judge, etc. But we found out that they do normally, they will interview children at the age of 10. So the eldest was okay with that. But the youngest, they didn't know whether this was going to happen or not. But anyway, he agreed to meet them.
Yeah.
I think it was purely because obviously the younger of the 2 was of higher intelligence.
Yeah.
And he met them, he spoke with them, he spoke to them for about an hour. And we then went into court. They went back to school. They took them out of school to do this.
Okay.
So they didn't come to court with us. They took them out of school with school officials, brought them to the court. The judge spoke to them. The school officials took them back.
Right. And what were the judge's comments after that?
And the judge stood in the middle of the courtroom. He wasn't even sitting at his bench. He came up to both myself and my partner, and he said, "Can I just say that you must be extremely proud of your children?" And we said, "Yes, thank you, we are." and he said, these two children are probably the most polite, well-mannered, well-spoken, delightful children that I have ever met. Right. And he said, and I cannot say how eloquent they are.
Yes. So that's credit to you.
This is credit to us.
Yes.
The judge also had a folder full of all the special achievements and everything that all of my children had achieved at school. During the whole time that we were at court, and obviously the whole time that all of this was going on. And he said, you know, how amazing it was. I mean, some of these achievements were done a day or two before. So whilst we were going through the court case, the children had achieved these.
Right. Okay.
Now, these are children that were too disturbed to be able to do anything properly.
Right.
Apparently.
Who said that? This is from the social workers, I take it?
This is from the social workers. When they first met my youngest daughter, they turned around and said they thought she was a mute.
Yeah. Right,
because she refused to speak to them. She didn't like them.
Yeah. Now, that's a normal reaction for a child. If they don't like somebody, they just won't talk to them.
Yep, that's a normal reaction. And depending on the mood that she was in, after a while, depending on the mood she was in, sometimes she would talk to them, sometimes she wouldn't. But that wouldn't just be her, that would be all of them.
Yeah. Well, given the stress that they were under, I'm not surprised. Right,
we were told this reaction was because we had turned the children against the social workers.
Right, I see.
We were told that this reaction was because we had talked to the children like they were adults and we had told them too much.
Right, okay. Right, now your partner through all this, what role did he play? Because he's got his own solicitors, he's got his own barrister.
He was playing exactly the same role as what I was, obviously, but he was also out at work trying to provide for us and everything else. So he didn't get as much involvement with the children as he would have liked.
Right.
Tell me what father does.
Yes, he's got a full-time job, he's providing for his family.
And every time there was a meeting, he was there. Every time they asked him to attend something, he was there.
Yeah.
Because I would be the one that would sit and talk about the children more than him.
Yeah.
Because obviously I was the one dealing with the children more than he was.
Yeah.
They said he didn't know his children.
Okay.
And because he wouldn't talk to the social workers as much as I was, they said I was talking for him. Now, he had turned round and explained this. He said, the mum knows more than me.
Yes.
Doesn't mean I don't know my children.
All the time with them, so of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I don't know my children. Doesn't mean I don't love my children, etc., etc., etc. They turned round and said because he would sit back and listen to everything, so that I would do the talking, he would do the listening. Teamwork there. Can you see?
Yeah.
They said he wasn't interested in his children and he didn't know them.
Right. Okay. Right. So now we're in the courtroom. We need to move on because we've only got another sort of 15 minutes. What was the judgment that the judge made?
The judgment that the judge made was the children were to be removed and placed in permanent foster care. This was after we quashed a judgment for for my daughters to be taken into to be pushed forward for adoption.
So they wanted the 3 younger children to be put up for adoption, and that order was quashed.
Yes. And the next day they came into court and they made it sound like it was their idea. They had changed their care plan.
Right. Okay. But they hadn't. It was actually the judge that quashed the ruling.
It was, yes.
Right. Now, how do things stand at the moment? Because when they took your children on the 20th of the month, but the court order wasn't signed until the 26th of the month. So for 6 days, they illegally had your children.
When we went into court to get the judgment, it was given to us by our barristers and solicitors. They were both there at the same time. They both turned around and said the reason that they were giving it to us is because the judge had made his decision. And I said, but surely it needs to be stamped. And they said, yes, it does need to be stamped, but he can't do that right now. You have to come back.
Then it's not a legal document. If it doesn't have a stamp and a discernible signature, it's not a legal document.
This is what we said. We said, well, surely we can wait then and hold on to the children until the document, till we've gone to court and the document is signed. And our solicitors and our barristers said, no. Because the judge has made his decision, we have to action this today.
Right. Yeah, but it was an illegal action. Without a signature and a court stamp, it's not a legal document. But the other thing I'd like to ask you is, didn't they call the perpetrator into the courtroom as a witness?
Yes, they did.
Okay, what was the purpose of that?
We have no idea.
So they called the abuser into the court to give evidence.
Yeah.
Now, it was obviously to give evidence for the social services side of things.
It was the social services that called him as a witness.
Yeah, well, I don't understand the reasoning behind that.
That was never really explained to us. They just said that they because of his story, etc., and that they needed to call him as a witness. And basically they turned around and said that they needed to call him as a witness because they needed to know whether we were telling the truth.
Right, so that they wanted for him to either confirm that you were telling the truth or that you were lying.
Yes.
Right.
Because as far as the social workers were concerned, we were lying anyway.
Right. Okay. So how are things as they stand now?
Well, as they stand now, we do not have the amended care plan.
Mm-hmm. Because the original care plan was a care plan for the children being adopted.
The original care plan was a care plan for the children to be adopted, but there were also other adjustments made whilst in court.
Right. So you don't have a copy of the care plan as it stands. Have you asked for a copy?
We have asked our solicitors on numerous occasions. Both myself and my partner have asked on numerous occasions for a copy of this care plan. We were told that it would be done, but the courts send all the stuff out to be written to an external agency.
Right.
This was in March. We still don't have a copy. When we received the judge's order, it is a photographic copy.
Right, so it's a photocopy, not an original.
It's a photocopy, not an original, and there is no signature, not even a discernible signature. There is no signature on the order at all.
There's no court stamp, I take it?
There's a stamp of some sort. There's a crown on the actual item, but it's not a wet stamp. It just looks like a photographic, a photocopy stamp.
Yes.
It doesn't say this is a true copy, etc., whatever. It doesn't say anything. It's just a stamp, and it says whatever it is, area stamp.
So it's not an official court stamp. Right. Have any of the parties broken the court order since the court hearing?
Yes. The social workers stopped the contact because my son had gone on a school.
Right, sorry everybody, I've had to drop that call. It's chaos there. I don't know what's going on with Skype. Unbelievable. I'm going to reboot it because I've got, I don't know how many calls going on, all on the same line. The same thing happened the other day. So, sorry about that. I'm going to put a tune on and call them back.
Hi Jane, the joys of live radio. Hey, sorry we lost the link there, but we're back up and running now. We'd actually got to the part about where there was no official court stamp.
There's no official court stamp on the document. That it doesn't say that this is a true copy. It doesn't even contain a judge's signature. It doesn't, not an unscribbled mess that you can't read. It doesn't contain a signature.
For it to be a legal document, and this is, I'm going to quote Justice Green at the High Court for this, it needs to be a wet ink, discernible signature, so you have to be able to understand who's written that signature, and that came from Justice Green at the High Court. I heard that myself, and it needs to have an official court stamp. So the documents that you have, they're not official court documents. They are not official. They are just photocopies, which are basically worthless. So that can be challenged. Now, I can't remember if I'd actually asked you, has any party broken the court order since the court hearing?
Yeah, the social workers have broken the court order. My child, my eldest, he went on a school trip, and basically we saw my daughters, because I have three daughters. We saw my daughters, and we were told that we would see my son the next week. They didn't perpetrate that. We kept asking. My partner's solicitors sent them 2 warning emails saying that they were breaking the court order. And by the time it came round the next month, we were seeing them all anyway, and they've never replaced that order. Right. Now, we complained about this, and we were told that it was nothing really could be done.
Right, because too much time elapsed. But there's something else I wanted to ask you. Now, there were assessments made by experts that you never got to meet. Would you like to tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, the assessments that were made on us, we have since found out were made by 2 teachers.
Right.
They're not even doctors as far as we're aware. But there was somebody overseeing all of these assessments, and this was a doctor apparently, and they never even met us. They never met us. They never met the children. The judge even
commented. Assessments based on?
Basically, their assessments were based on all the court papers, all the reports and the court papers, etc., etc., etc. I mean, the judge even commented that the reports from all the different assessments, etc., seemed like they were copy and pasted from the social workers' reports.
Right, so basically they've read the social workers' reports and made their assessments based on those without ever having met you, without ever even having spoken to you.
They've never even met the children.
Right. So who would have read those assessments? Would that have been the judge?
Yeah, the judge read. I mean, there were quite a lot of stuff that was twisted or corrupted, etc. By the social workers, by all these reports that were being done, and they were clearly corrupt, because when we read through the court papers, sentences were being changed, words were being changed, so the whole meaning of that report was completely different to what was said.
Didn't some of your friends that spoke to the social workers say that the words had been changed in the reports?
Yeah. Right. We were told that we had to get a friends and family conference thing together, which we did.
Yeah.
But the person that was organising that went round and took separate reports from each of the people in this conference thing. Yes. A lot of them then became ill, etc., and we couldn't make up another meeting. Mm-hmm. Social workers then turned around and told us that it was not important anyway.
Well, important to them, yes, it was important to you. Now, there's another comment the social worker made that I find quite worrying. Didn't they make some reference to your son being too empathic? In fact, he cared too much.
Yes, they said that my son wasn't treated very well at school by his classmates, etc. And I had been complaining about this for some time. And they wanted him to be assessed. We'd even taken him to 2 previous assessments by CAMS and by paediatric doctors. And one of these paediatric doctors turned around and said, the problem with your son is he's too empathetic. For a child, he's too empathetic.
I find that quite worrying. That's right. Now, he's too caring.
Too caring. And he's got 3 he's got 3 sisters. He's too caring.
And he's the oldest.
And he's the eldest.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to sort of put that out there. Now, obviously, you're still fighting this case. Where is it that you would like to go from here? I mean, you do have grounds, given that you don't have the official court papers, they're illegal papers, there is no discernible wet ink signature, no court stamp.
Can I also say as well, not only has that been done, but the whole of the time this has been going on, my daughter has received no counselling for the sexual abuse that she suffered.
That was the next part. Right, now why hasn't she? Because they've given you a reason as to why she hasn't had this. Would you like to tell us the reason?
Yes, they said that the reason they hadn't done this is because she wasn't in a permanent placement, which means she wasn't settled, meaning they refuse to do it until she's in a permanent foster placement.
Right. So if she'd been at home, she would actually have got the help that she needs.
Well, they doubted that as well, because they turned around and said she wasn't settled at home and she wasn't happy.
Oh, good grief.
Can I come in a moment, Sharon?
Yeah, sure, jump in.
Yeah. I was actually present at the case conference here, and the fact that we highlighted all of this in a very business-like manner, we were actually told that we're very aggressive, you know, and this is a common denominator that goes...
If you weren't empathetic, or they would have stolen you.
But then, you know, they do not like to be challenged. And
No.
The bottom line is that come us the new year, they're going to be challenged because we're now getting together, not only just on one case, but cases similar, and we're going to take it back to the High Court because these things need to be challenged.
They do. But you'll find with these people, Mickey, if you go in all guns blazing, you're being aggressive. If you go in polite and well-mannered, you're not, you know, you don't care.
I was talking to them as calm as I am now, and I'm aggressive, and the woman wasn't very much amused. I told her there's a dictionary definition between aggressive and assertive, and she was not amused when I said I'm more than willing to show her aggressive if she wants to see it.
I could believe that, knowing you, Mickey.
Can I just say?
Did they? Sorry.
Can I just say? My partner asked the chair lady why she thought that Mickey, who was acting as our advocate, why she thought he was acting aggressively. She said, I am going to stop this meeting if he doesn't stop. She refused to answer the question. She then pulled us outside.
Right. Did the meeting continue afterwards?
After about 10 minutes, when they said that we were not allowed to record anything because we wanted to record it all.
Yeah.
Now, we told them that we were going to record it. They said we weren't allowed to. It was against their policy.
Their policy. Not legally. It's their policy. You are quite within your rights to record as long as you just use it as evidence or for personal. You can't put it out on the internet, but you can record under certain circumstances.
Yes, it's actually Section 36 of the Data Protection Act.
I can actually give you the very thing here. Section 36 of the Data... I think it's subsection 6, if I remember rightly. I did write it down somewhere. But it's definitely Section 36 of the Data Protection Act. You can record.
Can I just say, we went to have our Christmas with our children this week, okay? And we asked, now we are being supervised the whole way through our contact with our children. Don't know why, because there has never been any question of us causing any kind of abuse to the children.
Yeah.
We asked if we could record our children playing with their Christmas presents. We were told no. It's against their policy.
Yeah, their policy. Then maybe their policy needs to be challenged.
Their policy definitely needs to be challenged.
And don't they have another policy of no smacking, but nobody else seems to know about this?
In the area that we are in, we are told that the social workers have a no smacking policy.
Yeah. But there is no law to back that up. You can chastise your children within reason.
I brought this up. And they said to us, when they said to us about not smacking the children, I said, there is no law that you cannot smack your children. It is as long as it was within reason of chastisement. Now, I knew this anyway. Before all of this happened, I knew this anyway. And they said, if you smack your children, if there is any evidence of you smacking your children, if the children tell us that they have been smacked, we will remove.
But this actually all comes down to the fact that you're actually being portrayed as a criminal, when in fact the criminal is already in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's another good thing. Can I just say, when he went to jail, myself and my partner took out a private order, which the judge granted. The order was that the perpetrator was not allowed to be anywhere near any of my children up until the day he died, and inclusive of that day. Now, the judge granted that. We also made the judge, in our case, aware of this, and he still removed our children because they said that we could not keep them safe.
Right, now there's a phrase that I hear, not just with adoptions and fostering, but with the father's rights movement as well, and it's called at risk of a future harm.
Emotional harm.
That's it, at risk of future emotional harm. They keep rolling this out, but you try and find a definition for that phrase. A legal definition, guidelines for that definition, and there are none. And I've spent hours looking for it.
Well, one of the things that we were taken to court for was emotional neglect, because we spoke to the children like they were adults.
Right.
So we said, well, we had to tell the children what was happening in case it went, obviously, their way. And they turned around and said, no, you shouldn't have told them. We said, why not? They said, because we would have removed them without you saying goodbye.
Good grief.
James, Sharon, it's really disturbing stuff here. I wonder if we could just get Michael Ough in, because he's been sitting patiently listening to this, and I think he's got a few things he might like to add. Are you there, Michael?
Yes, I am. I've been listening to this. What I've heard being discussed. Unfortunately, you have got social workers who think they can do exactly what they like, and this word policy, if you'll pardon me using some strong rounds, is a load of bollocks. Policy is not law. Any policy...
We keep bringing this up. And every time we challenge it, they say, you're causing problems with your children.
Right. There's a way of dealing with policy. Any policy that they formulate must be compliant with the law. Right? Mm-hmm. It must be compliant with the law. Just because they've dreamt up some policy, that doesn't mean that what they're doing is lawful at all. Now, I did put something in the chat box just now. Trying to break up a family is unlawful under Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights.
Mm-hmm.
That sets down the right to a family, private and family life, and that is enshrined in law. Obviously, if there is a genuine, and the onus of proof lies on the social workers, it doesn't lie on the parents, it lies on the social workers. It's the usual maxim, he who accuses must prove. That's the only time they could legitimately do it. Other than that, Article 8 applies. Now, if social services think, oh, well, we can just ignore that, no, they can't, because there is a provision in the 1998 Human Rights Act, Section 6, subsection 1. Now, social services are a public authority for the purposes of Section 6 of the Human Rights Act, and what Section 6, subsection 1 says, it is unlawful for a public authority to act in a way that is incompatible with a person's convention rights. That doesn't just apply to the parent, it also applies to the children. So, social workers really and truly do need to get real. These rights, the first 20 articles, and there are a number of other rights under the protocols to the European Convention on Human Rights, that are very, very clear. And although they give themselves these rights and powers, at the end of the day, they can only exercise those powers if they've got the police with them. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the police do not want to be there. You can see it. I mean, I'm a retired policeman, and you can see a lot of policemen, they just do not want to be there.
The police didn't even know the children had been removed.
That disturbs me. I mean, when I was in the police force, we had a case where two social workers just turned up out of the blue and just took a young child. We had the parents ring us up in frantic. We rang the duty officer at the was a London borough. He said, have you just removed a child, because we need to know where that child is? Oh yeah, it's gone to so-and-so. Right, so we were hammering over there. It was over at Paddington in West London. And we got out of the two social workers. We said, right, where's your order? Oh, we don't need one. Oh, yes, you do. They were carted off. We carted them off. We took the child back. The child was returned to the parents. There was no legitimate reason for taking the child. Yeah, those two social workers were sacked. They were sent to prison. Yeah, we put in front of the chief magistrate at one of the central London magistrates' courts the next day. They were remanded in custody for their own safety, Rule 43, and then they were committed for trial to the Grand Hall, and they were sent to prison for abduction.
When the police officer came round to do her next check, the children had been removed.
Right. Okay. Have you ever?
And she said, "Where are the children?" We said that they'd been removed. And she went mental. She said, "The children should not have been removed. We are supposed to know whether the children are being removed or not."
That's correct. That's correct. It's very similar to that one I had when I was in London.
She then went to her superior officer, and he went mental. And apparently a report was written and a complaint was put into the social services. We never saw that complaint. We don't know what happened to it.
Probably what they did is they buried it and ignored it, because really and truly, if the senior police, it depends on what rank the senior officer was. If it had been a superintendent, believe you me, he or she would have been down at social services office, probably dancing on their heads. Now, there are ways that you can deal with social services. Have you put in a subject access request to them under Section 7 of the Data Protection Act?
We have only just recently found that out. There's a lot of things that we've only just recently found out, unfortunately.
Right, I'm gonna tell you something. These SARs, once they realise you're going to put one in, they either get very nervous or they suddenly reach for the diarrhea remedy. It does make them mess themselves, because they know they cannot hold anything back, because if they do, the Information Commissioner can get involved, and the Information Commissioner can fine them. They can impose a civil monetary penalty of up to £500,000, in other words, £500,000. And where social services departments are concerned, the Information Commissioner has fined local authority social services department. There was one down where I am. They were fined £180,000. And in another case up in Scotland, the local authority was fined £480,000, 20,000 short of the maximum. So the ICO is not afraid to use their powers. I mean, once they got those powers back in 2010, they started to use them. It's really clamped down on things like that. But no, certainly in your case, I would get a subject access request put in straight away. That will make them very, very nervous. Also, there's another one you want to go on to, and that is the Health and Care Professionals Council. I would certainly.
I think with Michael, it's a case of we're all going to have to get together and wrap ourselves around Jane and work with this, because we can actually utilise what Jane brings to the table, right, to inspire other parents who are going through the very same thing. And make this a global thing across the UK, where people are no longer afraid to actually fight back.
No, I've noticed that, Michael, Mickey. What they're doing is now they're beginning to realise just how powerful the human rights legislation is. They are going, right, you are not abusing my rights. I am going to enforce my rights, and that's what the Human Rights Act is for. Section 7 to 9, that's the provision that you use to enforce your human rights. And once you mention Section 7, a lot of local authorities absolutely cack themselves. They know, because they know they're going to have an uphill struggle in some cases. But certainly with social workers, first port of call should be the Health and Care Professionals Council register. All their names, put it into the register and check them out. If they're not registered, ring the HCPC. They'll tell you to ring the police, because they're not allowed to practice as social workers unless they're registered.
No,
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
My daughter, not long after they were removed, told us that, well, she came to me and she said, "Mummy, do you still love me?" And this is amongst other things that my children have said to us during all of these things.
I know you're probably going to say it seems to me like the social workers have been sort of trying to manipulate them into saying, "Oh, your mothers don't." Yeah.
I asked her why, and she said because she had been told by people at school, the social workers, her carers, that we didn't love her anymore and we didn't want her, and that's why she was removed.
Yeah, that's a common tactic by them, trying to kind of soften them up for adoption. That's what it sounds like to me. That needs to be jumped on straight away. I would certainly get the names of these social workers, and I would certainly run their names through the HCPC register.
Well, the other thing is, Michael, I could take this back to the time that I was in care, and I was moved around the country.
Yeah, they do.
I was told, you know why your parents don't come to see you, regardless of the fact I was miles away. They don't come to see you because they don't love you.
Yeah, that is pure evil. To be honest with you, I think you'll find a lot of the more decent police officers, if they were left alone with one of these, I won't use the word because it's too strong. If they were left alone with one of these evil social workers, I don't think that social worker would walk away unscathed. I think they'd probably end up with their backside up round their ears and probably with their nose splattered all over their face. A lot of coppers secretly would like to beat the hell out of them.
Yeah.
Can I just say, it's not just the children that are told these things. We were told that we were not allowed to show any emotion to anybody, but particularly the children, because it would be cruelty.
Right. Well, if they're saying that, then there's more. The need to get the ACPC involved in this is more urgent. The SAR is going to get them frightened. The next thing to do is run their names through HCPC and then put in a complaint to the Fence to Practice department.
But isn't what they're doing causing the very problem they're claiming to be protecting the children from? It's causing emotional harm.
It is causing them emotional harm, and that as they are committing an offence themselves. They're not immune from prosecution.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this now: I know of no legislation which grants a social worker any form of legal immunity. They do not have. Now, police officers, they hold a Crown office. Constable is a Crown office, and they have certain powers, privileges, and protections conferred on them by law. But social workers do not have such powers, privileges, and protections. In fact, they've got no more power, privilege, and protection than you or I have.
Our children were removed from their last foster home because apparently it collapsed. Now, they were removed before we were told. And when we asked about it, we were told that they would not be going into it. Now, the whole time the girls have lived with that foster carer, they have been complaining to us that they felt that the foster carer was bullying them. They didn't like them. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. The parents at the school have come and said to us that the children were terrified of them. My middle one fell down and cut her knee. And she was more terrified about the reaction from the foster carer, and she had pretty much had a meltdown because she had blood on her knee and she was told she was not allowed blood in the car.
That sounds to me like these social workers have put them with an abusive, somebody who's known to have an abusive nature. And really and truly, that needs pulling out.
They have been moved, but they have suffered 6 months of that. Now, surely that is emotional harm.
It's emotional. It's also a failure to exercise. They've got a duty of care to the children. I will tell you that now. They have breached that duty of care because that's in loco parentis, and they breached that duty of care. That is illegal. In loco parentis means in place of the parent, and it applies to social workers. as well, and also foster carers, as well as as a school. Anyone who has care of someone's children has a legal duty in local parameters, and if they're breaching that, then yes, the law can go after them.
But they've been moved now. Is that going to still stand?
Well, the thing is, the social services really do need to explain what the hell is going on.
But that's just it. We don't get explanations.
Well, they've got to. They've got no choice. This is where the SAR comes in. Now, I did hear that bit where the social worker destroyed written notes. I'm surprised that the judge did not jump down off the bench and shake her warmly by the throat.
No, he just said he wasn't going to criticise her for it.
He should have. He should. In fact, he should have done something about it. Police officers, they have to keep handwritten notes that they make at the time. Mm-hmm. Because if in court, either of the two, or the judge, or the magistrate can ask to see their pocket notebook, and so, say, look, would you go and have a look at your pocket and see what notes you made at the time, right? Because they are essential parts of evidence. So are the social workers' handwritten notes. They
never made notes at the time.
And in that case, they're not contemporaneous. Which means
never made notes at the time, and it was usually a day later.
No, that's not acceptable. They've got to be contemporaneous.
When we challenged this, Michael, we were told we're aggressive and we're not allowed to be.
Well, the thing is, you are entitled to stand up for your own rights. So if they're saying, "Oh, you're aggressive," saying, "Oh, really? In what way?"
My partner asked this, and they turned around and said they weren't prepared to disclose it.
They got to.
They weren't prepared to discuss it either.
Right. Well, they've got no choice. They know damn well if they're going to behave like that. It seems to me they've got some hidden agenda. Now, I've just called up on my computer. I've just pulled up the European Convention on Human Rights. Now, Article 6, right to a fair hearing. It sounds like that's been breached in your case. Article 8. No, this is very important. It says here, and this is from the ECHR as published by the Council of Europe, who administer it. It says here, everyone has the right to respect for private and family life, home and correspondence. There should be no interference by a public authority with the exercise of this right, except such as it is in accordance with the law and is necessary in a democratic society in the interests of national security, public safety or the economic well-being of the country, for the prevention of disorder or crime, for the protection of health or morals, or for the protection of the rights and freedom of others. Well, that does not include abducting children and then kind of bullying them so that they can set up for adopting them and make money out of them. No, it does not entitle them to do that. So we're already looking at a potential... well, it's unlawful for them to do so anyway. Now, if I just go into that, it's disappeared off my screen. There we go. Now,
every time we see our children, they beg us to take them home.
If they're begging you to take them home, then there is something seriously wrong there. I am surprised that... what have the courts done to sort of... I've come across cases where a social worker was caught forging a parent's signature.
Okay.
They forged a parent's signature to try and get an order.
Uh-huh.
What the parent whose signature they forged was in Majesty's presence at the time. They were asked, how did you get hold of that signature? Oh, we went up to the prison. The prison governor gave a statement saying, oh no, they didn't, because they would need a visiting order, and we've not issued a visiting order. So the social worker who basically lied was sacked. There was another one who had an anti-harassment order. They weren't allowed to go anywhere near the family.
Well, we took an order out when the perpetrator went to court, and we said, we do not want this person anywhere near our children forever. And the judge granted it, and they still said that the children were not safe.
Well, hold on a minute. If that perpetrator is not allowed anywhere near, if it's an in the case of anti-harassment orders, it's normally they're not allowed within 500 metres of a person or within a kilometre of their address. Now, something like that, to prevent the sort of thing that the perpetrator was doing, it would more likely be, well, you're not allowed to go within so many miles of the boundaries of that town or city. And if you're caught anywhere near those boundaries, you will be arrested for being in contempt. So no, I mean, you cannot override an order. I mean, what level of judge was it and made the order? Was it a circuit judge?
I believe it was a magistrate.
Well, a magistrate can make it, but the thing is, was it a district judge or was it a JP?
I'm not 100%. I think it was a JP, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. I mean, and is it just is it for a certain number of years, or is it for?
No. This judge granted until the day that the perpetrator dies.
So it's what they call a perpetual one.
Yeah.
Yes.
An enduring order. It's called a perpetual or an enduring order.
Yeah, because I asked the police officer that was dealing with the case, was there anything, this is before we went to court, was there anything we could do to protect our children? And she said, yes, there's this order. She said, and you have to instruct me if you want me to do it, but I will put this in your name at court. And we did that, and the judge granted it, and he said, we are well within our rights to take this order to him, and he granted it, and he said that the perpetrator was not allowed near the children until the day, and including the day he died.
Then, I mean, if that went before a court,
we even put that in our case. We showed, and he was questioned on it as well when they brought him in. The judge questioned it, and he said, yes, that's right. I'm not allowed with anywhere near the children.
Jane, yeah. It's Betty. I've come in on that. Can I ask you when this court order by the JP, a restraining order to speak, was issued? Was it issued before the family law hearing?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was issued in January, and we went to court in March.
So by them calling him as a witness, they've broken that court order.
They have. That's contempt.
Yes, exactly.
But they said that the children weren't there.
Doesn't make any difference. That is contempt. That order has been breached.
Yeah.
By them doing that. So I mean, that doesn't just. I mean, those.
It was the judge that called him. Called him as a witness.
And the judge knew about that order.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we all told you a long time ago. You couldn't write the script.
I know. This is what's so disturbing. But certainly in your case, there is a need to get a subject access request in, and also I would get the names of the social workers involved and run them through the HCPC register. And I'm just going to go and get that a minute. Because I think this needs to be chased up. If the social workers involved are not currently registered to practice, then the police will need to be told. If they are registered to practice, then it brings into question: do they need to be dealt with by the HCPC's fitness to practice panel?
The social workers we were dealing with, when we went to court, one of them has been moved. Her job has moved,
right,
and the other one's hours have been cut.
Right. I would. It doesn't make any difference. I would still report. I've put that in the chat box on Skype, and it's there. Just click on it. That'll take you straight to the register. Put their names into the register. There is a drop-down menu for all the different professions that are covered by, regulated by HCPC, which includes things like radiographers, paramedics, things like that. But social workers are as well. And once you find out if they are currently registered, there is something called the Fitness to Practice Department, it's shortened to FTP Department. speak to them, ring them, give them a bell, and ask if you can make a complaint about the behaviour of these social workers. The SAR, though, the subject access request, is the most important, because that will basically force them to show their hand.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if your children are saying to you that they are being psychologically or physically abused by a foster parent and the social workers are doing nothing about it, they're in breach of their duty of care.
The social workers just turned around and said to us, every time they visited the children were perfectly happy.
Oh, really? Okay. Well.
So why are my children begging us to take them home?
Exactly. That would be my question. And in fact, if I was to tell a policeman, and I was told that, the first thing I would do is get the children and say, right, who do you want to be with? And if they said, yeah, that's when alarm bells will start ringing.
The children told the judge when they went to court they did not want to be removed. They wanted to stay at home with mum and dad.
What did the judge do? Just ignore it?
Yeah.
Right. When was this?
In March.
Damn. If it had been 3 months ago, if it had been within, there is something called JCIO, which is the Judicial Conduct Investigations Office. You can make complaints against judges. Now, I'm wondering if there is a case for
we were told by our solicitors and our barristers that we were not allowed to bring up an appeal because it wouldn't be financially supported for a year. And we had nothing to appeal with.
Oh, did they now?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
The judges, the solicitors and the barristers were all in the same room. We were all together, and they said you cannot appeal for the first year anyway.
Oh, right. So they're all kind of had their snouts in the same trough.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. What I've noticed going on is that the local authority feed out the work to the local solicitors, and they're in their pocket. They're all earning the money from the gravy train, so they all go along with the false adoption to feed it.
Right, I'll tell you something. They are supposed to know this. A lot of people don't know this. Anyone who is under contract to a public authority is subject to the Human Rights Act. They're subject to compliance, and if they don't, then they can be pursued under the Human Rights Act for breaching it. And that means those solicitors, if they're under contract to the local authority, then they are subject, because it's in the Human Rights Handbook for local authorities. So I'll see if I can put it. I have got a copy of the book. So what I can do is if you give me a Facebook account, I can send that. So I can send it to you. I know I sent one to Kaz a few days ago. It's a wonderful piece of literature.
Michael, if you send it to me, I will forward it on.
Certainly, I'll do that, Mickey.
Can you forward it on to me as well, please, Mickey?
Yeah.
Yeah, that Human Rights Handbook. I mean, there's about 5 or 6 documents that make up what I call the Human Rights Handbook. And I run Southwest Human Rights Action, and there's another lady who runs Northamptonshire Human Rights Activists. We've got all of those on those 2 Facebook pages. You can download. You can just join the site, and then you can just download them free of charge. But I will send them to Mickey, and then Mickey can then forward them to you as necessary.
Thank you.
But,
Can I just ask you a question before we go?
Yeah.
How much do you think social workers are driven by targets?
There is. I wouldn't mind betting there is. I mean, when Blair and then Brown brought in these targets for adoptions, it's pretty clear to me that there was child adoption and trafficking going on at an industrial scale, and there is.
Yeah. Yes.
There's child trafficking going on an industrial scale. Now, I hate to say this to anyone who's listening, and including yourself. They have found cases where children have been taken into care allegedly because they were being abused, were being sent to paedophiles, they were being sent to people who had a history of abusing, psychologically and physically abusing children.
Yeah.
Those were just in it for the money. I know of a case down in the southwest of England where a couple they weren't using the money that were being given to foster 2 brothers. They were spending it on extensions for their home. they were nuts, they were abusing the children physically, and when the two brothers went to meet their mother, who was obviously had a few problems, she said, what the bloody hell's been going on? She got onto the social workers. They just kind of turned a blind eye. She said, right, you better get this sorted out. I'm going straight to the police. They went out and, they found all this, and the couple were prosecuted. They went to jail for 2 years.
We've been told we're not allowed to question the children.
That indicates to me, I mean, call me a cynical ex-copper, that sounds to me like they got, the social services have got something to hide.
We've been told we're not allowed to question the children because it would cause them emotional harm.
Well, you can tell them from me that they're breaching the Article 8, the Convention on Human Rights, and they're also breaching Section 6 of the Human Rights Act. They're acting unlawfully. They will be very, very careful.
Well, they
were
put a warning, though, Michael, at the conference that we actually went to, and they basically, it's against their everything's about their policies.
Yeah, well, their policies are worth nothing, Mickey.
Yeah. But it's time that their policies were challenged in the right place. Maybe the Royal Courts of Injustice.
Well, Sir James Mumby, who is the president of the Family Law Division of the High Court, he's very unhappy about the way that the what's going on within the family court system. He's the president of it. He's the first president of the Family Law Division of the High Court to sort of stick his head above the parapet and start asking awkward questions. And good luck to him. He's at least he got one. He's got backbone and testicles to speak out against it. So,
can I also say that my children were separated when they were removed?
That is wrong. That's absolutely wrong. That's more harmful than keeping them together.
They said my son needed more work than my daughters.
I think the sooner you get that subject access request in, the better. I mean, as soon as that lands on their desk, they've got 40 calendar days from the day they receive it, so we'll send it by sign for. They've got 40 days. If they turn around and after 10 days and say, we're not complying, the clock stops. You ring the Information Commissioner, they'll say, give them 10 days, and then you send them a letter and say, right, you've got 10 days to comply, otherwise the Information Commissioner is going to take enforcement action. Now, I've come across some clowns who say, oh, well, we'll use what's left of the 30 days. No, it doesn't work like that. It's 10 days. They've got 10 days. I did help somebody where I am, and I think there's a Devon Social Service or one of the ones down in the southwest, and they said, oh, well, we've still got the remainder of the 30 days. I said, I suggest you ring the Information Commissioner, because once you stop, I said, so does the 40 days. I said, if the person says you've got 7 or 10 days, that is how long you've got. If you don't comply with that, then the Information Commissioner can get involved and they can take enforcement action.
Something else I want to point out as well. When my girls were removed, they're all fairly young. They all need child seats. They were all removed in a car that had no facilities for children whatsoever. When I brought this up at the time, I was told it didn't matter. They weren't going particularly very far.
Doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any difference. If the law says they must have car seats, then the law says they must have car seats. If that social worker had them in a vehicle, they did not have the appropriate seats, that social worker was committing an offence.
I brought that up at the time.
Yeah, that social worker should have been subject to disciplinary action.
Can I just? Sorry, Jane. Can I just butt in? I mean, it's really, Michael. It's really thankful that you're coming on and sharing this knowledge. And I'd just like to take a moment now to see if there's any family law barristers out there that are willing to come on in future programs to just come on and advise, or maybe take a pro bono case to get a precedent in law.
Yeah, there is one thing I will say. There are pro bono legal charities. Now you can go through the National Pro Bono Centre. You've got the pro bono charities for the Law Society, the Bar Council, and also the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives. Yeah. So that's something worth considering. I'll see if I can call up there. I'll see if I can get a link for them.
Right. Well, while you're doing that, Michael, I'll just run you briefly through what's happened to me, because what Jane's telling you now is not new. It's been going on for decades, as I'm sure Mickey will confirm. I was placed into the care of the local authority at the age of 12.
Yeah.
At the age of 13, I was being sexually abused by the house mother of the children's home I was in.
Yeah.
At the age of 15, I'd entered the penal system, like detention centre, ball schools, YP, prison, became an alcoholic, a drug user. In 1997, my father passed away. I received some paperwork off of my father. I won't say what that paperwork is, but I received some paperwork off of my father when he passed away. And that led me to believe that through the abuse that I received as a 13-year-old, that there was a child born. Now, I did go and make an allegation to a North London local authority, which is quite renowned for its failings, and I was shut down. I was told by the child protection team that there was no interest in investigating this case, and I was also denied access to my files under third party and health reasons. So I was literally closed down.
Yeah,
it was only through the assistance of the local councillor that was running in the local election at the time for the Liberal Democrats that they started to, when he got involved, they started to part with some information and actually listen to my complaint, which is where I got those 2 letters telling me that I wouldn't get no information and there's no interest in the historic case.
Yeah, that strikes me as being a cover-up.
Yeah, well, when the Liberal Democrats won that area in the local election, the MP or the councillor that became the MP that was helping me suddenly became very deaf.
Yeah.
Now, I went back again in 2002 and made my complaint and was closed down. Since the Jimmy Savile thing came to life, I then went back through the White Flowers Trust and made my allegation, and the person is still alive, has been arrested, has been tested, as well as the son, in brackets. And today I had a phone call this morning telling me that the CPS have decided to go ahead and charge this person.
That's encouraging.
Yes, it is, because I didn't have no faith in the system at all.
I will say this. There are still some people in the CPS and in the police who want to do the right thing. Unfortunately, they are often bullied by the psychopaths. I had a copper knock on my door a few months ago. There'd been a domestic incident a few doors up from where I live. And I got talking to him, and he found out I was ex-police. And he said, "You don't want to be in it now." I said, "Why?" And he said, I said, "Come on." I said, "Come on." I said, "You can tell me." I said, I'll see if it kind of goes in with what one of the guys at Crown Hills told me. And he told me, and it was quite frightening. Some of the bullying that's going on. They found also that the Tetra radios they're using, the output from them, the EMR, the electromagnetic radiation, is affecting their brains. It's making them very aggressive. It's also causing brain tumours and things like that. So it is. But also, what they're asking the police to do, it's causing a lot of disquiet. The Police Federation is getting very, very unhappy about it.
Yeah, I can see that too. Okay.
But there was something that came up, I think it was in the last couple of days, but the three police forces in the East Midlands area have told the government, no, we do not want Group 4, G4S running our control room, so you can take your controls off.
Yeah, brilliant.
Good for them.
Good on them.
Yeah, that's what I say. They tried to do this with Lehman and Somerset said no way.
Yeah. Just skipping back to like a bit more on my story and my experiences from the local authority, the social services, the legal aid, or the legally funded solicitors available to take on the work. Because mine goes back quite a while. I did get involved with Fathers for Justice in the early days, in 2000 and 2001. I went on quite a few demonstrations, was quite a high-profile activist with them at one time. And the only thing that I would say that they achieved for family law, for family rights, was that if your name was on the birth certificate, then you automatically had parental responsibility. Now, I had to go to court 29 times. 29 different court orders. So you can imagine how many times I spent in the court.
Quite a few.
And that ended up in my court order being parental responsibility. Now, I can enforce that on the local school. I can enforce that on the local education department. But that cannot be forced onto the custodial parent. There is no punitive penalty there.
There is.
Well, my experience has proved to me that there hasn't been.
Right.
I believe that there's Martin. There's Martin hanging on the wings inside, and I think he'd come in and be able to fill in a lot more on that, because there's an awful lot of alienation going on between parents and children, where local authorities are coming in, as in Jane's case, as in mine, 20-odd years ago, that they're coming in and they are breaking up the families. And now that this adoption industry has been privatised and is on the targets and there's big money in it, there seems to be, and you spoke about it earlier, there seems to be this culture of going in and breaking up the families, taking the children and forcing them into the adoption route.
That's exactly what seems to be happening.
Exactly.
It's
And
trafficking.
I'm sure that Martin would be able to tell you a lot more on that.
Well, what it is, it's trafficking. And trafficking of children or adults is a criminal offence. It's an indictable offence. And if they are found involved in any form of trafficking, it carries a very severe penalty.
But it seems rife.
It is, and I think I've got a feeling sooner rather than later, this is going to come all out into the open, to be dealt with. And I've got a feeling there's going to be some really social workers running them to change their underpants, if not running somewhere where they can hide, where nobody's going to find them. I'm sorry, they can run, but they can't hide.
Yeah.
I think what needs to happen is we all need to come together as a group, whether it's forced adoption, Fathers for Justice, just come together and fight them as one, because if there aren't numbers, they just won't listen.
It's not just happening to fathers, it's happening to mothers, it's happening to whole families.
Yeah.
It's a war against families.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're trying. Yeah, I mean, this is Agenda 21 for you. One thing I have.
Yeah. It's a war against families. Break down the family, and you have chaos.
And what you do is you use human rights legislation to counter that, and because they know that that human rights legislation is very, very powerful, and it basically it's like sticking a wall right in front of them, and of course they start charging towards you, bang, they hit the wall, and that's as far as they're going. Yeah. But the thing is, what social workers, and if any are earwigging this program, I mean, God, I hope they hear this. If they are caught, if they are caught breaching Section 6 of the Human Rights Act, there is a piece of legislation, there is a piece of case law, AA versus London Borough of Southwark. Now, it's to do with illegal eviction, but it set a precedence, and in the judgment was handed down last October. And what it says, very simply, is that if somebody holding public office is found guilty of breaching someone's human rights, they are guilty of misfeasance in public office. Now, that is a civil tort, but the knock-on effect of that is that public office, that person holding public office could well find themselves facing dismissal with immediate effect, and they could find themselves facing a lifetime of job seekers allowance. No one will want to touch them. They are basically bad news. Now, this is what social workers do need to be very, very aware of. if that's the very least they can expect. If they're found to have been falsifying reports, forging signatures is a criminal offence that carries a maximum penalty of 10 years imprisonment. It's an offence under the Forgery and Counterfeiting Act 1981. If you produce an order that is clear, where things have clearly been forged, and then try to purport that to a genuine article, that's using a false instrument with intent. You're subject. You are liable to immediate arrest without warrant. The police can just say, right, we're arresting you. They don't need a warrant. That can be used as evidence, and if it goes to the Crown Court, then as a social worker, if you're caught with a false document, you can expect to face at least up to 10 years in prison. So if there are social workers listening, I was a policeman. I've had to deal with cases of forgery and of fraud. That was what I used to deal with a lot of. But in a case like that, if you're caught doing that, then you should expect to face a very, very lengthy prison sentence. If you're a social worker, you will get a much tougher. You have betrayed a public trust. You will get hammered.
The one thing I'd like to come in with, though, Sharon runs a page called The Crossroad, and if anyone's got similar issues or cases that we can all join together and unite on, and maybe take to someone like Judge Mumby, let Sharon know at The Crossroad, because cometh the new year.
You can add me. I'm Sharon Chesterman. Go onto Facebook. You can look me up, and then if you don't want your stuff public, just come and talk to me, and we can all come together and fight this as a unit, as opposed to different people all sort of wandering off in different directions. That's the goal.
Yeah, well, what I'll do, Kaz, I gave you a load of human rights stuff you don't like. Mickey, I'll send you the human rights toolkit, and then you can distribute it as necessary.
Yeah, no problem.
Can I comment about human rights at some other point, please?
Yeah, by all means.
Oh, hello, Martin.
Hello, Martin.
No, I'm waiting my turn. Anyway, human rights is something that came in 2001. Now, the way that we treat children, it's the 1989 Children's Act.
Yeah.
Which says, jog on human rights, we're going to go with best interests of the children.
No.
And that's something that this nation has invented. And after inventing this concept, they've established something called Charter on Rights of the Child, which is a diplomatic treaty.
Oh, that's the UN.
Yeah, hang on a second, me old mate. Now, unless we leave that treaty, nothing can happen. So, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but every single time that there is a vote in the Commons on any children's matters, you will notice nobody is in the chamber. Why? Because the party whips have told them to jog on. It's a diplomatic treaty. It supersedes anything we do here at home. Now, after 1989, which was a Tory government, they then signed up to the human rights idea, so they knew it was coming. And the last one under John Major, the Tory government passed a new Children's Act. It was called the Family Law Act, Parts 1 to 4. So when that was implemented, 1996 and 97, it ran for a very short time. The briefs, the social workers, everyone didn't make very much money out of it at all. And it was declared unworkable by Tony Blair's boss. I forget what his one of the Lord Chief Justices. Anyway.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So he suspended parts 1 to 3, and the only part that we have working is the domestic violence part. Which I grew up in South Africa. I know what apartheid looks like. Yeah, say no more. It's domestic violence. So yeah, it is what it is. But parts 1 to 3, which is the bit that deals with everyone's human rights, which was supposed to work hand in hand with the 2001 Acts, had been suspended.
Right.
So therefore, any children's matter now, as we all know, when you walk into your dirty secret little room and you look up at the cross-dressed creature behind the desk, the first thing they say to you is human rights out the door. Here we act in the child's best interest. And the case will not continue
unless you consent or agree to that. Forget my friend.
Right. No.
So, I hear your valuable advice on Human Rights Act and how to get redress, and I wish you all well, because if you are successful, which at times eventually you may well be, you might get a couple of quid, but you won't get one step closer to your kids.
Right, now I'm going to say something.
Right now, I need to put out an appeal, hurry up.
Anyway, here we are, hey.
One thing I will say, a judge cannot suspend human rights. He's got no power to do that. The European Convention on Human Rights, which is the one that the UK is signatory to, that was signed in Rome in 1950.
I will counter that by saying there's no obligation on a judge to know anything about any act of law that he presides over, and he's perfectly entitled to call a balloon a brick. That is simply a bad decision. Have a nice day. Go and spend some money somewhere else.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, he's got to abide by it because the court is a public authority for the purposes of the Human Rights Act 1998. He's got no choice. If he's doing that, he is breaking the law. I know these are closed courts, and I think he does it because he knows there's going to be no public scrutiny of his actions. And unfortunately, what he's doing is unlawful, and he knows it.
Thank you, Michael. That's amazing advice there, and thank you, Martin. I know you've been so patient. I will get you on back another time, but can we just let Kaz in there quick? She's got an appeal to put out, and we're running out of minutes.
Come on, Kaz.
Thank you. An appeal for survivors of Aston Hall, Aston Hall Hospital in Derby. It was owned by Nottinghamshire Council, but it was actually based in Derby. It was a mental health facility that was conducting experiments on children.
Oh, God.
Some of those experiments extended to Ligactil and Ritalin used in the same day.
What?
With the children then being knocked out with ethyl nitrate, and the boys were subjected to anal swabs of the prostate gland to check for the XYY chromosome.
Okay, you're in your last 50 seconds there.
We need people to come forward and contact Derbyshire Police ASAP, please. Anyone that was in Aston Hall Hospital. Thank you.
What year span?
We have a support group on Facebook, Survivors of Aston Hall.
Can I just say something about Largactil? That is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous drug. In fact, I believe they have now stopped doctors prescribing Largactil because it is so dangerous. Its other name is chlorpromazine.
Liquid Kosh, yes, it is chlorpromazine.
That's his other name. That's his other name.
Yeah. Can Betty just put something in there before we go off air? I had experience of Ligactil on my first ball store, and with that Ligactil was electric shock treatment.
Yes, it was combined. It was a regular treatment combined.
Yeah.
Largactil, though, the prison service have been stopped from using it.
Okay.
That's Aston Hall
using it.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes.
It's been brilliant. Thank you very much.
Christmas!
And
Merry
good
Christmas,
night.
folks.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and love you all.
Okay.